I stood in the hospital corridor, my legs shaking from exhaustion after my 16-hour shift at the diner. The smell of coffee and grease still clung to my uniform, hidden beneath a hastily thrown-on jacket. It was 2 a.m. Visiting hours were long over. But the night nurse, Jenny, knew me by now. She'd let me sneak in to see Grandma during these quiet hours, between my late shift at the diner and my early morning cleaning job. "She's sleeping peacefully tonight, Emma," Jenny whispered, giving my shoulder a gentle squeeze. "The new treatment seems to be helping." The treatment that cost more than I made in 3 months, even working every job I could find. But it was worth it. Every blister from waiting tables, every aching muscle from scrubbing floors, every moment of exhaustion. It was all worth it if it meant giving Grandma a fighting chance. What my sister Victoria didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd been here almost every night for the past 6 months. While they visited during normal hours, bringing flowers and empty promises, I came in the dark, holding Grandma's hand while she slept, making sure she was never truly alone. Victoria's words from yesterday still rang in my ears. "It's disgusting how Emma never visits. After everything Grandma did for us, she can't even spare an hour. She's probably out partying or sleeping around. She always was the selfish one." I wanted to scream the truth at her. That I dropped out of college temporarily to work 3 jobs. That every penny I earned went straight to the hospital. That I hadn't had a full night's sleep in months. But Grandma had made me promise to keep it secret. "I don't want their pity," she'd said firmly when I started paying for her treatments. "And I don't want to cause more family drama." Victoria's always been sensitive about these things. Let her think what she wants. So I kept quiet, even when it hurt, even when Victoria's lies painted me as the villain in our family story. I slipped into Grandma's room, the soft beeping of monitors creating a familiar rhythm. Her face looked peaceful in the dim light, the worry lines smoothed out in sleep. I took my usual spot in the chair beside her bed, careful not to make any noise. "Hey, Grandma," I whispered, gently taking her hand. "Sorry I smell like hamburgers again. The diner was busy tonight. Made good tips though, enough to cover next week's treatment." Her fingers tightened slightly around mine and her eyes fluttered open. "Emma, my sweet girl." "You should be sleeping," I said softly, but she was already shaking her head. "I get plenty of sleep. Tell me about your day." So I did, keeping my voice low, telling her about the funny customers at the diner, the kind old man whose office I cleaned who always left encouraging notes for me, the progress I was making learning medical billing for my weekend job. I didn't tell her about Victoria's latest accusations, or how Mom had started giving me disappointed looks, or how Dad barely spoke to me anymore. "You work too hard," Grandma said finally, her voice heavy with concern. "I never wanted this for you." "I want to do it," I insisted. "You're the only one who ever really understood me, Grandma. Who supported me when everyone else just saw Victoria's version of me. Please let me do this for you." She squeezed my hand again, tears gathering in her eyes. My Emma. Always so strong. Before I could respond, footsteps in the hallway made me freeze. A familiar voice drifted through the door, Victoria, talking loudly despite the late hour. "I just want to check on her one more time," she was saying. "I'm such a devoted granddaughter, you know, not like my sister." I quickly pressed a kiss to Grandma's forehead and slipped into the attached bathroom, leaving the door cracked just enough to see. It was a well-practiced routine by now. Victoria swept in, designer handbag swinging from her arm, perfect makeup despite the hour. She probably came straight from another party. The smile she pasted on her face looked practiced, artificial. "Grandma, you're awake. I just had to come see you." I was so worried. I watched through the crack as she perched carefully on the edge of the bed, taking care not to wrinkle her expensive dress. "I don't know how you stand being here alone all the time. If only Emma cared enough to visit. But you know how she is, always thinking of herself first." Grandma's voice was neutral, giving nothing away. "Everyone shows love differently, Victoria." Victoria scoffed. "Love? Please, she hasn't been here once in months. Meanwhile, I'm here all the time, making sure you're not lonely. I've even been talking to the doctors about your treatment options." My fists clenched at that. Victoria hadn't contributed a single penny to Grandma's care. But she loved taking credit, playing the role of the devoted granddaughter. "The treatments are being handled," Grandma said firmly. "But they're so expensive, and the insurance won't cover everything. I've been thinking, Victoria leaned closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Maybe we should consider moving you to a less expensive facility, somewhere more practical. After all, we have to be realistic about finances. I bit my lip to keep from making a sound. A less expensive facility meant less specialized care, fewer treatment options. It meant giving up. That won't be necessary, Grandma replied, steel entering her tone. My care is taken care of. Victoria pulled back slightly, surprise flickering across her face. But how? The treatments here cost a fortune. Don't worry about it. But Grandma, as your primary caregiver, I should know these things. I'm only looking out for your best interests. Primary caregiver? I wanted to laugh, or cry, or maybe both. Victoria, Grandma's voice was tired now. It's late, you should go home. But I just got here, and I wanted to tell you about this amazing investment opportunity I found. I know you've been worried about my startup company, but I found some investors. Whoa. Not tonight, Grandma cut her off. I need to rest. Victoria stood up, smoothing her dress. Of course, you must be tired. I'll come back tomorrow. Unlike some people, I make time for family. She bent down to kiss Grandma's cheek, then swept out of the room as dramatically as she entered. I waited until her footsteps faded before emerging from my hiding spot. Grandma looked exhausted. I'm sorry you had to hear that. I'm used to it, I said, trying to smile. Besides, she's right about one thing. She does visit more often during normal hours. Stop that, Grandma said sharply. You're here when it matters. Quality over quantity, my dear. I sat back down, taking her hand again. Sometimes I wish I could tell them the truth. Show them they're wrong about me. The truth will come out when it needs to, Grandma said mysteriously. Now tell me more about that kind old man and his notes. Those stories always make me smile. So I did, pushing aside the hurt and frustration, focusing on making her laugh instead. I stayed until the sky started lightening outside the window, then reluctantly stood to leave. I have to go. The office building opens for cleaning in an hour. Emma, Grandma called as I reached the door. I'm proud of you. So proud. Don't ever forget that. I carried those words with me through my morning cleaning shift, through another long day at the diner, through my evening medical billing coursework. They gave me strength when Victoria's latest social media post appeared on my feed. A selfie of her at Grandma's bedside, captioned, "Being there for family is what matters most." Some people could learn from my example. The comments were full of praise for Victoria's dedication, with a few pointed remarks about my absence, if they only knew. But I kept quiet, kept working, kept showing up in those dark, quiet hours when no one else was around. Because in the end, it wasn't about proving Victoria wrong or winning family approval. It was about Grandma, about giving her the best care possible, about making sure she knew she wasn't alone. One night, about a week later, I arrived at the hospital to find Jenny waiting for me, her face grave. She's been asking for you, she said softly, all day. I rushed to Grandma's room, my heart pounding. Victoria was there, of course, holding court from her usual perch on the edge of the bed. Mom and Dad stood nearby, looking worried. Finally decided to show up? Victoria sneered when she saw me. How generous of you to spare a moment from your busy social life. I ignored her, moving straight to Grandma's side. Her face lit up when she saw me, and she reached for my hand. Emma, she breathed, my sweet, hard-working girl. Victoria's eyes narrowed at the warmth in Grandma's voice. I've been here all day, she said pointedly. Where were you? Working, I said simply. It wasn't a lie. Of course, Victoria rolled her eyes. Always an excuse. But Grandma was squeezing my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. Victoria, everyone, please give me a moment alone with Emma. But Grandma, Victoria protested. I'm the one who's been here. I'm the one who deserves. Please, Grandma's voice was firm. Just a few minutes. They filed out, Victoria shooting me a venomous look as she went. As soon as the door closed, Grandma turned to me. Emma, listen carefully. In my dresser at home, top drawer, there's a letter. I need you to get it. Tonight? But. No buts. Promise me. I promise, I said, worried by the urgency in her voice. Good girl. And Emma? Thank you. For everything. She passed away that night, slipping away peacefully in her sleep. I was there, holding her hand until the end. When the others returned in the morning, Victoria made a show of her grief, wailing about how she should have been there, how she'd barely left Grandma's side for months. I stayed quiet, my own grief a heavy, private thing in my chest. I had a promise to keep. That evening, while Victoria was busy arranging an elaborate memorial service and arguing with the funeral home about flower arrangements, I slipped into Grandma's house. The letter was exactly where she'd said it would be, addressed to her lawyer with a note instructing it to be opened at the will reading. I delivered it as asked, then went back to my 3 jobs, back to the routine that no longer had a purpose. But I'd made a promise, so I kept going, kept working, kept quiet. A week later, we gathered in the lawyer's office for the will reading. Victoria sat front and center, practically vibrating with anticipation. She'd been not so subtly hinting about her plans for Grandma's estate, how she'd use it to fund her latest business venture. I took a seat in the back, ignored by everyone except Jenny, who'd come to support me. The lawyer cleared his throat, adjusted his glasses, and began to read. Before we proceed with the distribution of assets, he said, I've been instructed to read this letter. The lawyer unfolded Grandma's letter, and the room fell silent. Even Victoria stopped fidgeting with her designer bracelet, leaning forward expectantly. My dearest family, the lawyer read, if you're hearing this, then I'm no longer with you. But before my estate is distributed, there are some truths that need to be told. Victoria shot me a smug look, clearly expecting some final criticism of my apparent neglect. I kept my face neutral, though my heart was racing. For the past 8 months, I've been receiving specialized treatment that insurance wouldn't cover. Treatment that gave me precious extra time with my family. What most of you don't know is who made that possible. My mother frowned, glancing at Victoria, who was already starting to smile. But Grandma's words continued. Every night, after working 3 exhausting jobs, Emma would come to sit with me. Not during convenient visiting hours, but in the quiet dark, when she thought no one would know. She paid for my treatments, every single one, working herself to exhaustion to give me a fighting chance. The room erupted in murmurs. Victoria's face went pale, then red. My parents turned to stare at me, shock written across their features. While others took credit for my care, Emma was the one actually providing it. While some spent their time posting selfies from my bedside, Emma was working night shifts at a diner, cleaning offices at dawn, and studying medical billing on weekends, all to pay for my treatment. That's impossible, Victoria interrupted, her voice shrill. She's lying. Emma doesn't even have a job. She's been partying and wasting her life. The lawyer held up a hand for silence and continued reading. I have instructed my lawyer to attach bank statements showing every payment Emma made, along with documentation from the hospital confirming her nightly visits. I also want it known that Emma begged me to let her tell you all the truth, but I asked her to keep it quiet. I knew how it would upset certain family dynamics. Victoria jumped to her feet. This is ridiculous. I was the one who was there. I was the one who cared. Tell them, Mom. Tell them how Emma never visited. But Mom was looking at me with dawning realization. The smell of cleaning products on your clothes, your exhaustion, all those times you couldn't come to family dinners because you were busy. I nodded slowly, tears filling my eyes. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you. I promised Grandma. The lawyer cleared his throat again. There's more. He pulled out a stack of papers. These are copies of social media posts, text messages, and security camera footage from the hospital documenting both Emma's regular visits and certain conversations about moving Mrs. Harrison to a less expensive facility against her wishes. Victoria sank back into her chair, her face ashen. Everyone knew she'd been pushing to move Grandma somewhere cheaper, claiming it was for the best. And now, the lawyer continued, to the distribution of assets. Victoria straightened up again, desperation clear in her eyes. Despite everything, she still thought her performance as the devoted granddaughter would pay off. To my granddaughter Victoria, the lawyer read, I leave my collection of photo albums. Perhaps looking through them will remind you that family is more than just a performance for social media. Victoria's mouth fell open. That's it? Just some old photos? But what about the house? The savings? My startup needs? To my daughter and son-in-law, the lawyer continued over her protests. I leave my house with the condition that it cannot be sold or used as collateral for any business ventures. He glanced meaningfully at Victoria. And to my granddaughter Emma, he paused, adjusting his glasses, I leave the remainder of my estate, including all savings, investments, and my shares in Harrison Properties. Led. The room exploded into chaos. Victoria leaped up again, her face contorted with rage. This isn't fair. I was the perfect granddaughter. I visited during normal hours, I brought flowers, I posted about it. You mean like this post? The lawyer held up a printout of Victoria's last Instagram photo. The one where she mocked my absence. Your grandmother saw all of these. She also saw the bank statements showing Miss Emma's payments for her treatment. Payments that totaled more than your combined visits for the past year. Victoria turned to our parents, tears streaming down her face. Mom, Dad, you can't let this happen. Emma probably manipulated Grandma, took advantage of her when she was weak. But Mom was looking through the hospital documentation, her hands shaking. 3 jobs, she whispered. She worked 3 jobs while we believed your lies about her partying. I had to, Victoria screamed. Emma was always the smart one, the responsible one. Even when we were kids, it was always, why can't you be more like Emma? I had to do something to make you see her differently. The words hung in the air, a confession she couldn't take back. Dad stood up slowly, his face hard. So you deliberately destroyed your sister's reputation because you were jealous? Turned us against her because you couldn't stand her success. Victoria's composure cracked completely. Success? She's a waitress and a cleaning lady. I'm the one with the business degree, the startup company, the plans. The plans you wanted Grandma to fund, I said quietly, speaking up for the first time. That's why you came that night, isn't it? To convince her to give you money? Shut up. Victoria grabbed her designer bag, swinging it wildly. This isn't over. I'll contest the will. I'll tell everyone how you manipulated her. I've already filed all the relevant documentation with the court, the lawyer interrupted smoothly, including several recorded conversations where Mrs. Harrison explicitly stated her reasons for this distribution. I should also mention that attempting to contest this will would result in all evidence being made public, including those social media posts and text messages. Victoria froze, her face crumpling as she realized the implications. Everything she posted, every cruel comment and mocking photo, would be exposed. Her carefully crafted image would be shattered. I hate you, she spat at me. I've always hated you. Little Miss Perfect, always doing the right thing, making me look bad. I never tried to make you look bad, Victoria, I said softly. I just tried to help Grandma. That's all any of this was ever about. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The sound echoed through the quiet office, followed by a heavy silence. Mom started crying, great heaving sobs that shook her shoulders. We were so wrong about you, Emma. So terribly wrong. How can you ever forgive us? I looked at my parents, seeing the guilt and shame on their faces. Part of me wanted to stay angry, to let them feel the pain of their mistrust. But I remembered what Grandma always said about forgiveness being a gift you give yourself. We can start over, I said finally. That's what Grandma would want. Dad pulled me into a tight hug, something he hadn't done in months. We don't deserve you, he whispered, just like we didn't deserve your grandmother. The lawyer gave us a moment before gently clearing his throat. There's one more thing. He handed me an envelope. Your grandmother asked me to give you this privately. Inside was a letter, written in Grandma's familiar shaky handwriting. My dearest Emma, by now the truth has come out, but that's not why I left you everything. I chose you as my heir because you showed me what real love looks like, not showy gestures or social media posts, but quiet sacrifice and unwavering support. You worked 3 jobs without complaint. You gave up your own dreams temporarily to help me. You sat with me in the dark hours when everyone else was sleeping. And you did it all without expecting recognition or reward. That's why I know you'll use this inheritance wisely. You'll build something meaningful, just like you helped rebuild my strength every night with your stories and your presence. Victoria will be angry. Your parents will be guilty. But remember, you earned this not by being perfect, but by being genuine, by showing up when it mattered most. I love you, my quiet warrior. Make me proud. Love, Grandma. I pressed the letter to my chest, tears flowing freely now. Jenny, who had been quietly supportive throughout the whole proceedings, squeezed my shoulder. She talked about you all the time, she said softly, about how proud she was of your strength, your dedication. This is exactly what she wanted. As we left the lawyer's office, I felt lighter somehow, as if a weight I carried for months had finally lifted. The truth was out, the sacrifices acknowledged, the love recognized. Victoria's car was gone from the parking lot, but she'd left her final mark, a hastily scrawled note under my windshield wiper. This isn't over. I crumpled it up and tossed it in the trash. She was wrong. This chapter was over. The new one was just beginning. 1 month after the will reading, I sat in what used to be Grandma's office at Harrison Properties, now my office, reviewing the company's files. The inheritance had included more than just money. It came with the responsibility of a legacy that employed over 50 people. My first decision had been to keep all my jobs, at least temporarily. Not because I needed them anymore, but because I had made commitments to people who counted on me. The kind old man whose office I cleaned had tears in his eyes when I told him I'd stay until he found someone new. The diner staff had become like family. And my medical billing work, well, that knowledge would come in handy for what I had planned. The second decision was harder: what to do about Victoria's increasingly desperate attempts to undermine me. Miss Emma, my assistant Sarah, poked her head in. Your sister is in the lobby again. She's demanding to speak with investors about her startup proposal. I sighed and pulled up the security camera feed. Victoria was there, dressed in her most expensive business suit, waving papers at the reception desk. Let her up, I said. It's time we had this conversation. Minutes later, Victoria burst into my office, her designer heels clicking aggressively against the hardwood floor. Finally. Do you know how long I've been trying to get a meeting? Yes, I replied calmly. I also know about the emails you've been sending to our investors, claiming I stole your business ideas. She faltered slightly but recovered quickly. Well, you did. I told Grandma about my plans for medical billing software, and suddenly you're taking courses in it? That's theft of intellectual property. I opened my drawer and pulled out a folder. You mean this plan? I spread out her proposal. The one that shows no understanding of actual medical billing processes, has no technical specifications, and is basically just a collection of buzzwords. I was still developing it. Victoria, I said quietly, why are you really here? She collapsed into the chair across from me, her carefully maintained facade cracking. It's not fair. I'm the one who went to business school. I'm the one who has the degree, the connections, the plans. You were supposed to be the failure. Is that why you spread those rumors about me? Why you turned our parents against me, to make me fail? You don't understand, she whispered, and for the first time, I heard real pain in her voice. Everything always came so easily to you. School friends, Grandma's approval. I had to work twice as hard just to be noticed. Easily. I couldn't help but laugh. I worked 3 jobs until I was ready to collapse. I gave up my college plans temporarily to help Grandma. Nothing about that was easy. But you did it. You succeeded. Meanwhile, my startup is failing, my investors are pulling out, and She stopped, biting her lip. And you need money, I finished for her. That's why you're really here. She nodded miserably. I'm going to lose everything. I looked at my sister, really looked at her. Beyond the designer clothes and perfect makeup, I saw something familiar. Desperation, fear, the need to prove herself. I remembered what Grandma's letter had said about using the inheritance wisely. I have a proposal for you, I said slowly, but you'll have to earn it. She straightened up, suspicion warring with hope in her expression. What kind of proposal? I'm planning to expand Harrison Properties into healthcare facility management. Your business degree and connections could be valuable. If you're willing to start at the bottom and learn the actual business, not just the buzzwords. You're offering me a job? She looked stunned. An opportunity, I corrected. Entry level, no special treatment. You'll have to work your way up, prove yourself. And the first step is making things right with the family. How? Tell them the truth. All of it. Why you spread those rumors, why you tried to turn them against me. Take responsibility, for once. She was quiet for a long moment, absently twisting her designer bracelet. Finally, she looked up, and I saw something I'd never seen in her eyes before: humility. Okay, she whispered. I'll do it. That evening, we gathered at our parents' house. Victoria stood in the living room, hands shaking as she confessed everything. How her jealousy had turned into resentment, how she carefully crafted lies to make me look bad, while presenting herself as the perfect granddaughter. how she had manipulated everyone's perceptions because she couldn't stand being in my shadow. Mom cried. Dad looked like he'd aged 10 years. But when Victoria finished, they both hugged her. We failed you both, Mom said. We compared you, pushed you against each other instead of supporting you individually. I'm so sorry, Victoria said, looking at me. I know it's not enough, but I am. I thought about Grandma, about her belief in second chances, about her lesson that true strength isn't about tearing others down. It's a start, I said. 2 weeks later, Victoria started her new job in the accounts department. She showed up in modest business attire, her designer bags relegated to her closet. She worked late, asked questions, admitted when she didn't know something, all things that old Victoria would never have done. I kept all my promises too. I stayed at the diner until they found a new waitress, then set up a college fund for the staff's kids. I helped the kind old man find and train a new cleaning person, then hired him as a consultant for our healthcare facility project. I used my medical billing knowledge to develop a system that would actually help patients and providers, not just generate buzzwords. One evening, as I was leaving the office, I found Victoria still at her desk, poring over spreadsheets. You can go home, I said. It's past 7. She looked up, offering a small smile. I know, I just want to get this right. As I walked to my car, I pulled out Grandma's letter, which I still carried with me. You'll build something meaningful, she'd written. Looking back at the office, where my sister was working to rebuild herself, I realized that maybe that something wasn't just a business. It was a second chance for our whole family. 1 year after the will reading, I stood in the lobby of our newest facility, the Katherine Harrison Memorial Medical Center. The morning sunlight streamed through the large windows, illuminating the portrait of Grandma that hung in the reception area. Your grandmother would be so proud, Jenny said, now our head of patient care services. She had left her hospital job to help me build something special here. A state-of-the-art facility with affordable payment plans and comprehensive care. It's exactly what she would have wanted. I smiled, watching the staff prepare for our grand opening. The center was a culmination of everything I'd learned through my journey. The importance of compassionate care from my nights with Grandma, the value of hard work from my multiple jobs, and the understanding of medical billing that helped us create an innovative payment system. Victoria approached carrying a stack of reports. She had earned her way up to project manager over the past year, surprising everyone with her dedication and genuine business acumen when she wasn't trying to take shortcuts. Final numbers for the charity care program, she said, handing me the reports. We can help twice as many low-income patients as initially projected. Her designer clothes were long gone, replaced by practical business wear. The flashy social media posts had stopped. Instead, she'd focused on real accomplishments, earning respect rather than demanding it. Good work, I said, genuinely impressed. You really made this program work. She smiled, a real smile, free from her old artificial charm. I learned from the best, both you and Grandma. Our parents arrived for the opening ceremony, Mom crying happy tears when she saw Grandma's portrait. She loved this, she said, squeezing my hand. Using her legacy to help others, bringing the family together. It's perfect. The ceremony itself was simple but meaningful. No flashy displays or elaborate speeches. Grandma would have hated that. Instead, we focused on our mission, ensuring that no family would have to work 3 jobs to afford medical care for their loved ones. As I cut the ribbon, I spotted the kind old man whose office I used to clean, now our patient advocacy coordinator. The diner staff had come too, taking a break from the breakfast rush to support me. Even some of my old cleaning clients were there, proud to see their former cleaning lady open a medical center. I have something to say, Victoria announced unexpectedly, stepping up to the podium. She looked nervous but determined. A year ago, I was a different person, someone who valued appearance over substance, who thought success meant pushing others down to lift yourself up. I was wrong. She turned to me, her eyes bright with tears. My sister taught me that real success comes from lifting others up, from doing the right thing even when no one is watching, from being genuine instead of putting on a show. Working here, starting from the bottom, learning the real meaning of business and family, it's changed me. And I'm grateful, not just for the second chance, but for the lesson that true strength isn't about being better than others. It's about being better than you used to be. Later that evening, after the guests had left and the center was quiet, I went to my office and took out Grandma's letter one last time. The paper was worn now, softened by countless readings, but her words were still clear. "You'll build something meaningful," she'd written. Looking around at what we created, not just the medical center, but the rebuilt relationships, the healed family bonds, the renewed sense of purpose, I knew we had done exactly that. Victoria knocked softly on my door. "The first patients are scheduled for tomorrow," she said. "Everything's ready." Grandma would love knowing her legacy helped make this possible, I said, carefully folding the letter. "It wasn't just her legacy," Victoria replied quietly. "It was you. Your forgiveness, your willingness to give me a chance to change. That's what made all this possible." I thought about our journey from those dark nights in the hospital, through the pain of betrayal, to this moment of triumph. Not just my triumph, but our family's. "You know," I said, "Grandma once told me that the true measure of success isn't in what you achieve, but in how many people you lift up along the way." Victoria smiled, understanding in her eyes. She was right. She usually was. Together, we walked through the quiet halls of our new center. Tomorrow, these halls would be filled with patients receiving the care they needed, regardless of their ability to pay. Every corner reflected something of Grandma, her compassion, her wisdom, her belief in second chances. As we reached the lobby, we paused before her portrait. Her kind eyes seemed to twinkle in the evening light, as if sharing one last secret with us. "Think she's pleased?" Victoria asked softly. I thought about everything we'd accomplished, not just the medical center, but the healing of our family, Victoria's transformation, our parents' growth, my own journey from silent sacrifice to confident leadership. "Yes," I said, smiling at Grandma's portrait. "I think she's very pleased indeed." Sometimes the greatest inheritances aren't measured in money or property, but in the lessons learned, the bonds strengthened, and the lives changed. Grandma had known that all along. And now finally, so did we.